It was back in February of 2020 at the Auto Expo that Hyundai first showcased the all-new Tucson in the Indian market. Seems like it was an eon ago, but Hyundai has finally now started its media drive and we have the car with us and we'll be telling you more that you need to know about the all-new 2020 Tucson from the Korean car maker. So stay tuned. The new Tucson now gets the cascading grille that Hyundai is bringing to most of its cars in the Indian market. The character lines are not defined anymore by the straight lines on the bonnet, but instead, the U-shaped character lines on the bonnet add stylishly to its athletic appeal. The headlights are now even sleeker than before and are in LED. Hyundai calls it the Penta-Projector LED light system. The LED DRLs are also present, and underneath all of this are the fog lights, which now are in a new casing. On the side, nothing much has changed and the new Tucson bears a significant resemblance to the preceding model. However, don't miss the chrome handles and the 18-inch diamond cut alloys that support the entire vehicle. Over at the rear, the profile is simple and yet stylish, thanks mainly to the LED tail lights here. Badging is kept to a minimum with the Tucson and the H-Track badges here. Open up the boot at the click of a button and there is a massive storage space in the boot that greets you. Additionally, the rear seats can now be folded 60-40 for even more space. While the exterior profile of the Tucson does get subtle updates, what are the changes on the inside? Let's take a closer look. Now, once you step inside the 2020 Tucson is where the updates on the inside are perhaps more evident than the updates on the outside. This is primarily highlighted by an all-black color theme which adds to the visual premiumness of the car itself. But if you're looking for something that's more substantial in terms of premiumness and the premium upgrade, take a look at the leather-stitched dashboard, which looks really classic. The entire dash now is in a horizontal setup, primarily highlighted by the horizontal AC vents which replace the vertical setup in the preceding model. There is also an all-new 8-inch floating infotainment screen which looks really nice and is positioned well enough to negate any screen glare. The biggest highlight in terms of feature updates on the Tucson is that Hyundai has equipped this car with its BlueLink technology. We've seen that in previous models from the company, but in this car itself as well, there is the option of using the smartphone to control functionalities like AC on and off, temperature control and a whole lot more. The center console on the 2020 Tucson has been redesigned and that's a good thing because there is a lot of storage space starting with the space for your phone. It's big enough to fit 5, 5.5, 6 or even 6.5 inch phones and you get the wireless charging functionality for compatible phones, which is a good thing to have. Just behind that are storage spaces where I have chosen to put the car keys. Then there are the cup holders which are currently being used to store my hand sanitizers. Right next to it are buttons for the drive functionalities which include auto hold, drive mode, and there are 3 drive modes by the way. There is Sport, Comfort and Eco, but we'll speak about that when we are actually driving this car. There is also the hill assist control in this car. Remember, this particular model that we're sitting in has Hyundai's H-Track system, which essentially means that you can opt for more traction in slippery condition. The car will have a better grip. But again, we'll focus on all of that in the later part of this review. For now, the biggest highlight that I would like to mention in the new Tucson is the panoramic sunroof. The touch of a button here and the massive sunroof opens up to let the elements play in. There is also no air purification system inside this car. Now, we are in Delhi and the winter months are approaching, so it's a function, it's a device, it's a feature that is looked out, sought after by many prospective customers. We've also spoken about the infotainment screen and how good it is in terms of functionalities and in terms of how much screen glare it negates. But at the end of the day, it is also an 8-inch screen. So we've seen cars from Hyundai itself which have infotainment screens which are larger. And there are customers who want a large infotainment screen inside their cars. Tucson is a premium vehicle, so we would have ideally wanted something that's bigger than the screen we have. But for now, we'll have to make do with this 8-inch touchscreen. Almost every functionality that the center console has, that the infotainment screen has, can be controlled easily by the driver. Everything is well within reach. Additionally, there are also steering mounted controls for that added bit of convenience. And because we are talking about the steering, well, it's not a flat bottom steering, but that is primarily for a sporty drive feel, and the Tucson doesn't really claim to be extremely sporty and is not focusing only and primarily on the S aspect of an SUV. Instead, it's decently sized, it has the rake and reach functionality and sits nicely in front of the TFT screen. The TFT screen is semi-digital, and that's where another sort of shortcoming of the Tucson comes to the fore. An all-digital screen perhaps could have been more attractive, but for now we'll have to make do with a semi-digital screen. Now, all around this car there is an 8-speaker Infinity sound system, and while at a time when a lot of car makers, Hyundai included, are equipping their cars with the Bose sound system, the Infinity seems a little under par. The backseat of the Tucson continues to offer a whole lot of space for 2 people and is adequate for even 3 people. Knee room, leg room and headroom are more than adequate even for tall passengers. 2 people on long highway journeys in the backseat will be absolutely comfortable. 3 adults sitting abreast would also be fine in city commutes, but may find space to be a little bit of a constraint, especially when it comes to shoulder room out on long highway journeys. Now, when you step inside the car behind the wheels and you push a car like the Tucson, what are the 2 major expectations that you may have? Firstly, that it should be good enough, practical enough as a daily city commute option. Second, I think, is that it should be powerful enough, exciting enough for those highway rides. And on both these counts, the Tucson 2020 actually does excel. Now, it's offered in a 2-liter petrol engine, but the one that we're driving right now is the 2-liter diesel, which produces about 180, a little more than 180 horsepower and has 400 Nm of torque. Now, all of that means that this car is extremely capable when it comes to getting a move on. Right now, I'm on an open highway track, and this car does have the power to make the overtaking moves as and when I want it to. So let's get a push on just to see. And that's the sign when it hits the 80 kmph mark. And really, it goes pretty effortlessly towards the triple-digit speed. The braking is, well, slightly on the softer side, so you'll have to push the brakes a little harder than usual. But it's nothing to be very cautious about. It does the job and does it pretty capably. Suspension setup, as you just saw, is also pretty decent, but then Hyundai has always set up its cars nicely for those city roads and all the bumps that come with them. Speed breakers, unless you tackle them with a lot of aggression, shouldn't be much of a problem. But by now I've driven the Tucson for a good 70-80 kilometers in both city and open roads, and well, my biggest positive takeaway from this vehicle, the diesel one, is that it's even more peppy and perhaps more powerful than the preceding model. It's a lot more fun to drive. On the flip side, the steering, for the first time I feel, from a Hyundai vehicle, could have had a little bit more feedback for a more reassuring triple-digit speed drive. You know, when the car is stationary, the ignition is on and you're standing outside, there is that very, very familiar and unnerving grunt of the diesel even at idle. Thankfully, the NVH levels are fantastic and you hardly hear that grunt inside the cabin, even when you're pushing the car to its limits. Now, I've been driving this car in the comfort mode, but let's put it to the sport mode and see what this car can do. Oh yes, immediate bump up in power, pulling itself clean till about the 4000 RPM mark, ranging between 3000 and 4000, and initial impressions, well, definitely are positive. This car has a different flavor to it when it comes to the sport mode. Hyundai has already showcased the 2021 Tucson in the international markets, and well, frankly, on paper, the images of the car look absolutely stunning in terms of how it's been designed. But coming back to the 2020 Tucson, it does benefit from certain styling upgrades. Now is also available in BS6 compatible diesel and petrol engines and gets a certain update to feature list itself, although certain key features remain missing. What do you think about the car? Do let us know, and as always, stay safe, drive safe.